Vice Mayor kind of set the precedence, if someone can introduce the family for us.
This is Peter's mom, Cecile. This is Peter's brother, Ron. This is Peter's former girlfriend, Valerie, and I'm Betty.
Thank you. This is a resolution of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, selecting and honoring Peter Feldman as Distinguished Citizen for 2010. Whereas Peter Feldman was an imaginative, creative thinker who contemplated how to move Fort Lauderdale to a new phase with character and amenities of a new urban city. And whereas Peter Feldman was a member of the Fort Lauderdale Community Development Corporation for over 10 years and was a strong supporter of its mission to create quality, affordable homes for low to very low income residents in our city. And whereas Peter Feldman worked tirelessly to establish the Northwest Progresso Flagler Community Redevelopment Agency to plan and define redevelopment opportunities for Northwest Fort Lauderdale. And whereas his leadership and dedication to the City of Fort Lauderdale and its residents was demonstrated through the many organizations he supported, including the Jack and Jill Children's Center, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Broward Partnership for the Homeless, and the Children's Home Society. And whereas Peter Feldman was a consummate ambassador for the City of Fort Lauderdale, serving as a member of the Downtown Development Authority, the Transportation Management Association, and the Fort Lauderdale Community Redevelopment Board. And whereas seeing potential in everyone and every situation, Peter Feldman worked to develop that potential, which led him to spearhead the creation of the Flagler Village Improvement Association to create a grant for Flagler Heights that would enhance redevelopment opportunities for an area that historically has been overlooked. And whereas Peter Feldman was a non-conventional, spirited, and benevolent visionary who used his talent for the betterment of the City of Fort Lauderdale for present and future citizens. Now whereas, be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, that Peter Feldman is hereby selected and honored as Distinguished Citizen of the City of Fort Lauderdale for 2010 in recognition of his many accomplishments and valuable contributions to the City of Fort Lauderdale, and that the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale hereby publicly recognizes and acknowledges these achievements and contributions, and does hereby express its heartfelt appreciation to Peter Feldman. That a bronze plaque honoring Peter Feldman as Distinguished Citizen of the City of Fort Lauderdale for 2010 shall be placed in the courtyard of Fort Lauderdale City Hall. That a parchment copy of this resolution shall be furnished by the City Clerk to the family of Peter Feldman as a future token of the sincere gratitude and appreciation of the City of Fort Lauderdale. Adopted this, the 20th day of April 2010, signed by the Mayor, John P. Jackson.
It was only a few months ago that I gave the eulogy at Peter's funeral. So I think that today, Peter would like this to be a much lighter day than that. So that's what we're going to try to do. I know if we could listen to Peter today, the first thing he would do is he would want to thank his friend Rob Dressler and the whole selection committee for giving him this honor. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, committee. I know he'd also like to say something nice about each one of these commissioners sitting up here, many of whom he's had friendships and relationships with for probably the last 3 decades. But I think we'd also hear, because everybody here knows Peter, many people here do know Peter, he was kind of irreverent, to say the least. And probably that's why he and I got along so well. But I think just a couple of things that I think we would have heard from him in that vein is the first thing he would do is he wouldn't take any of this too seriously. He would say, don't make too much about honors you receive. They usually go to the wrong people anyway. Today, Peter, you'd be wrong on that. You are more than deserving of this. He'd also say, well, don't do anything dumb by naming a park after me. Well, too late. We already did that. I think He would also say, well, I see you're setting up food and beverage, but I don't see the vodka. So maybe we'll have to do something about that a little later. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to his brother, Ron.
I think if Pete were here, the first thing he'd do is express some concern about the title distinguished being applied to himself. He'd then question the judgment of the committee who selected him. And if a speech had to be made, he'd probably consider Doug's just about perfect. If Pete were here, of course, I wouldn't need to get up today. He'd be here to thank all those in this room who supported him and worked with him for over 30 years to advance his vision and dream of a more livable, dynamic, healthy, developed downtown. And to those who disagreed or fought with him, he'd be able to give them a knowing smile of satisfaction with that quizzical, humorous glint of disagreement that he often had. Pete deserves to be satisfied, though it's a real loss for him and the city that he's not here to enjoy that satisfaction and to continue his work. But he did live to see his vision materialize, to see Flagler Heights, the Progresso neighborhood, for those who have been here longer, evolve into a viable downtown neighborhood. Pete chose Fort Lauderdale as his new home at the age of 17, moving down from New York, and made downtown his passion. He ended up taking dilapidated, what were many dilapidated bungalows, many of which were rentals, and turning them into beautifully designed and landscaped projects that many said were too expensive. His projects ultimately spurred the revival of that neighborhood, and he did many others on north and south sides of the river, and supported too many other projects to name. He would have continued to be involved in the wave and many other ongoing and new projects. He told me many, many times early last year, before he even had his diagnosis, how excited he was and looking forward to working with Mayor Jack. But the single biggest testament to Pete's vision are the two substantial, thoughtfully designed buildings he completed in Flagler. Pete accomplished all that not with a big organization or unlimited dollars, but as a small, tenacious entrepreneur and out of a small office in the hood. He was able to succeed because of the clarity of his vision, the strength of his commitment, a good dose of stubbornness, an equally strong sense of humor, and a very big heart. I want to say on behalf of Pete and his family, I'd like to sincerely thank the mayor, commissioners, the selection committee, and all of Pete's friends and Fort Lauderdale family for this honor of recognition. And I'd like to close by quoting a few of Pete's own carefully chosen words, which he offered up on the occasion of his 50th birthday. I wasn't there, I didn't do it, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
I just want to say a few words. I really am not prepared. I'm just overwhelmed by the outpouring of love that the city has shown Peter. And as a surviving mom of 4 teenagers, 4 spirited teenagers in the 60s, I never thought the day would come when I would be standing here trying to thank a whole city and an army of Peter's loving friends for the outpouring of love and the funeral service that they prepared that was really fit for a king. Thank you, everybody, so much, and I love you.